Forget everything you thought you knew about the Call of Duty League. We just lived through the single most chaotic Rostermania in history. Only one team kept its roster intact. The other 11, well, they hit the reset button. The board has been completely wiped clean. So, who actually won the offseason? Joining me to make sense of this mess is our CDL expert, Andy Propercast. How you doing today, Andy?
Doing pretty good, man. Feels good to be back for another power rankings. This time to be ranking some of these teams way too early. Some of them haven't even been announced yet, but we got to get into the nitty-gritty because the season is right around the corner.
Yeah, no, and with this game launching just this past weekend, I've been playing myself plenty. How about you?
Yeah, I've been putting a lot of hours into the game, been watching a lot of scrim VODs. Again, very early doors, but S&D wagers are always at the top of my list, both playing and watching. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, as soon as we get out of here, I'm definitely watching that flank tournament later on today to see some of my favorite players go at it. But let's get right into the list. Let's see who implodes just a little bit later. But right now, let's see who's starting at the bottom of the top. Kicking us off at number 5 with a score of 80, a new era for the North, Toronto Koi, with a team of its core cast, but staying together, removing Beans, replacing it with Real. But the real question is, will Real bring a real change to this new roster?
I think it's a fair question and a fair assessment going into it because Joe Thieves, Insight, and CleanX, like you were talking about the Core 3 returning as a roster, CleanX and Insight returning as a Core 2 ever since Cold War. This team definitely has everything making for a championship roster. They were very consistent all throughout last year, even when they brought in Mercules as a last-minute substitution, got top 4 at that event. And then they also got a taste about what Real's going to be able to bring to the table with Abe replacing Beans at Esports World Cup. Definitely got to see the ante being up just a little bit. Look, Joe Thieves across a multitude of categories last year was going underneath the radar. He was atop a lot of different leaderboards, and a lot of his slaying prowess will end up helping a lot of these teams or a lot of decisions being made in a lot of these crucial moments coming in towards this game. Black Ops 7 is going to suit both his play style and CleanX, not to mention CleanX and Insight's just consistency again ever since they joined the league, ever since Cold War. They've always been in a top 5.
Yeah, no, I am personally a huge Joe Thieves fan. Talk about a humble human being, and Joe is that. But I have a bonus question for you, Andy. As I was going around, we were making these rankings in the office over the past couple of days. It's with Real on this roster. Does he know enough English? Is language going to be a problem for this team?
Yeah, I think Jose's English has always been there. Even when he was competing back in European challengers, he was always able to convey a lot in English. And I mean, we've also seen it regardless of one's ability to be bilingual in a lot of different situations. The kid just knows COD. You go back to when he was playing on Carolina Royal Ravens with Playster back in the day, his English is fine.
Yeah, no, it shouldn't be too much of an issue, but that's why they're in the top 5 for a reason. But moving on to number 4, we're going to be moving over to LA with a score of 84 in LA mates. No, not that LA just yet. We have a few teams who there have been officially announced, but this isn't one of them at the time of this recording. But personally, I'm a huge fan of this roster through and through. Obviously, Neptune being a Halo guy. But can this roster around him get him his first LAN championship?
Yeah, we know General Mate's management is still trying to figure out timing to be able to announce when this roster is actually going to be revealed. We don't even know what city they're going to be announcing, whether it's going to be France, Paris, Lyon, or they're just stuck over in Los Angeles one more year. All I can tell you is that their organization, their community is very excited for this upcoming season because they do have returning LAT duo of Ghosty as well as Envoy coming in towards the mix as well. Very close to being a World Championship roster, winning a couple lands just last year. They're now joined with the likelihoods of Simp, who throughout all of his career, even as an amateur, was always highly regarded as one of the straightest shooters in the entire league. He even has a LAN championship back with the Vancouver, or was Seattle Surge at the time when he was playing with Pred. Yeah. Neptune, glad you shouted out Neptune. He was probably, until Mercules got picked up by Optic, was easily the most impactful player just last year. Remember what Vancouver Surge looked like last year when they were playing with Hixie. No shade to Charlie, but when Neptune came into the mix, they went back-to-back second places. The only time when they faltered was at the penultimate event before Champs. So I think Neptune's midseason pickup last year is enough to be able to lean on this team, that they're going to be able to hang with some of the best. Ghosty is still regarded as one of the best IGLs in the entire game. Very smart head on his shoulders, backed by a couple good gunnies and the legitimacy that is Envoy's career. Decorated, to say the least. I think this team's going to do quite well.
Yeah, no, this is my favorite team on paper by far, and it's It's top to bottom. It just looks great. I know I said that when I was introing them, but this team just looked like it's going to be fun. There's a lot of talent, a lot of good personality, and hopefully they could stick it all together. But don't tell my boss, but I was up way too late watching Ghosty stream last night, and he was just going absolutely insane. There's the already way too early GA talks about what gun attachments are going to be allowed and all this, and they were asking in one of the losers rounds, he's like, yo, do you want to play with the muzzle? He's like, yo, I don't care, I'm going to fry you anyway. He took the muzzle off, he went 44-10 and just destroyed the whole lobby, and it's looking like a good sign for this team.
Yeah, I mean, Dan's never been short of any sort of animosity. It's all love in towards the game, obviously. But I think when you pair that along with Sib, who's as a known trash talker, but also can back it up with his gunny, Neptune all throughout last year as well. This team's not going to be short of any confidence, to say the least.
Yeah, no, it's going to be exciting watching them going forward. But we have to get back into our list, and this might upset some of the people out there, but at number 3 with a score of 85 is FaZe Vegas, the most surprising roster to come out of the past offseason, at least in my opinion, with the duo of Simp and Abizi finally deciding to not compete together anymore. So the question is, Andy, how will Simp do in his first season without Abizi?
It's going to be tough, right? Because, I mean, Simp, ever since he came in as Rookie of the Year back in Black Ops 4 on that EU United team, like you were already mentioning, this is his first competitive season without playing long-term duo of Tyler Abizi. But he is playing with Draza for his 3rd year in a row. Yeah. And you get that AR frontline to backline connection like Simp and Draza do have. I think that they're mostly looking at their improvements in Search and Destroy. You go back through a lot of their years, the past 2 years more specifically, you could even take this most recent iteration of what was Atlanta FaZe. Their Search and Destroy was abysmal. When you think about what Simp is able to bring to the table, same with Draza, you're thinking of a lot of their S&D entire year. So how do you packet punch that? Well, you bring in 04, you bring in Abuza, 2 of 4 individuals that were representing Vancouver Surge just last year, like what I was talking about with Neptune, continuous Silver Surfers, but they were constantly upsetting FaZe in a lot of different Game 5s, yeah. And Game 5, if you're unaware, is Search and Destroy. And Abuza and 04 are some of the smartest, most tactical players that we do have in the Call of Duty community to this point in time. So I think that that's mostly what Simp is looking at, surround himself with like-minded individuals who can also slay with some of the best as well, and then he can end up turning around the Search and Destroy conversation that's around him and Draza. It's going to be interesting to be able to see how Simp does pair alongside of 04. Simp's now going to be stepping fully back in towards that role as the slaying SMG alongside 04, so I think he's going to be feeling pretty darn good, especially seeing some of Chris's streams as of late with BO7 coming out. You know, he's rearing and ready to be the faster one on the map.
Yeah, no, for sure. And if it wasn't for you just spitting a bunch of facts at me there, even before when we were talking about these rankings, I would have still personally had Gentlemates above this team because, like you said, it was the other 2 of 4 from Vancouver this past season. But Neptune, in my opinion, was the better piece of that entire puzzle. But like you said, you put it all together, couldn't have been said anything better. The only thing that I have to agree with you on, the abysmal part of this entire roster, is that rebrand that we just watched on that screen, because man, could they have done so much better, and I feel like they didn't. So yeah, I'm coming for everybody out there. As if I'm not rage baiting enough with this list, I'm coming at the rebrand as well.
Yeah, it should be interesting. I mean, going over towards Vegas, it's already been announced that they're going to be hosting champs. I think what they're going to be focused more on than anything is fighting the backlash from their fans after not hosting an event in Atlanta for all these years. Now we finally have an Atlanta event not hosted by FaZe. The first event that they're going to be hosting ever since the 2019 it was a Homestead event, is going to be champs in Vegas. But yeah, I mean, the rebrand is definitely something. I'll give them that.
Yeah, it was tough. But let's get right back into the list, and jumping into a score of 89, the Thieves are back at number 2 with all the roster changes in a scary duo of Scrap and Hydra. Did they build the best roster that they possibly could without poaching from Optic?
I mean, ultimately what the streets are saying is that Los Angeles Thieves, aka Hydra and Scrap, they wanted to get Celium first. He was bought out by the Falcons. Then I think next they were mostly looking to pick up Draza. There's not a chance in snowball's chance in hell that Draza is going to be teaming with Scrap in the near future. If you don't know, you might as well give yourself a quick little search. But anyway, this is the best possible outcome that they could possibly imagine. Like we were just talking about with FaZe Vegas, this is the first season that Abizi's not going to be playing with Simp. You don't just leave one of the best Search and Destroy players in Call of Duty's history just riding the bench out there. No, you bring him alongside one of the best players, if not the best Call of Duty player right now in Hydra. You put them side by side, and that becomes a fearsome duo. But the Kenny one is interesting to me because, again, like I was saying, they wanted Celium, then Draza. Kenny, he had a really bad beginning of the season with Optic after winning champs with them. He's now returning back to an organization that he's long tenured with, whether it was 100 Thieves or now LA Thieves. Won champs with them in Vanguard with Octane. I think that this is the best possible outcome. He is very vocal as a leader. He is very willing to be able to put in the extra work behind the scenes to elevate his team. And I think that that's what Scrap is going to need to elevate him to finally win a damn championship. He lands, but this kid wants a ring on his finger. I know Ernie does, and he's already trying to build these super teams as we were quoting them last year with Envoy and Ghosty. I think that this is even a more packet punchable team than what he had at a World Championship caliber roster just this last season.
Yeah, no, and I was just like most of you out there watching. I spent 3+ hours watching the process the other day and got a lot of newfound respect for Kenny. Kenny did a lot of the talking in the room, and that might have ultimately been his demise. But how he sees the game and how the game should be played, Kenny's got a smart brain on his shoulders, and I only wish him success with this roster.
Yep, I mean, he's only going to be that much better of a leader at the end of the day, right? I mean, when you think about the back-of-house of this team of LA Thieves, they're still running it back with Coach Shane. Coach Shane is constantly up for Coach of the Year in a multitude of different facets because of all the reasoning he has behind just getting into the nitty-gritty with his team. Yeah. Back behind and alongside Kenny, what made that World Championship roster is how much work that they put behind the scenes. It's also outside of the game for those two in particular, and I think that's what's going to be very alarming outside of their gunny, which already speaks for itself out of LA.
I'm going to rapid reaction ask you one more question, Andy. Coaches allowed on the stage, yes or no?
I mean, I like the coaches on the stage, yeah.
Nice. Good answer. Good answer. But hey, you already know what's coming. This should surprise nobody. The green wall stands tall. As we teased in the intro, only one team did not make a roster change heading into Black Ops 7. The winners of back-to-back world championships, back-to-back tournaments to end Black Ops 6 with a score of 95. The question on everyone's mind, Andy, is will the reigning champs come out and dominate, or will they falter like they did last year?
Well, I already talked about it with the Gentlemates roster when we were talking about Neptune. Most impactful player until one young buck individual ended up getting dropped by the Stallions, and that was Mercules, of course, right? We already saw what he was capable of doing when he was a last-minute substitution for Toronto, now known as Koi, formerly Ultra, getting top 4 for that, and then he got picked up by Optic, replacing Skies. And he just went on to win everything. I mean, the first event, I think it was at DreamHack, like they got top 3. That's fine. And then he went on to win champs and then EWC in the most impactful way possible. And it's more than just being an AR. Like, he's also a very vocal player. He's also a very fast-paced player as well. He's already putting clips on the internet as well, just backed by everybody else gassing this kid to the moon. So until shown otherwise, Mercules is the best player in the game. And
wow.
I don't think that anybody's going to be batting an eyelash at that. It's like him, and then a very close second is Hydra. But Mercules, his impact for the game alone, backed by the green wall of Shotzi and Hook's energy, and Dashy being the most clutch player of all time. Yet this roster undoubtedly is going to be the #1 for the season. They've had this rocket strapped to their rear end before, and like you were already talking about, going into BO6, they've crumbled in a multitude of different ways, having to make roster changes after roster changes, but I think this is going to be a much different roster going into this one. They're dedicated, they're driven, and they're already slamming a lot of different teams, including the FC Stallions, which take that as a grain of salt in very early scrims, so I think that they're trying to get ahead of the horse before anybody else thinks about building a chariot.
Now, no, shout out the Shadow GM Zinni for making that move possible. For all of you that have watched the process, you already know what I'm talking about, that conversation where, hey, we got to make a change, and the change is now, and it's Mercules. And man, it's crazy, and that's why I said I love watching things like that where you see backdoor conversations come to real life and to see how they landed the best player in the game, in your opinion, going forward. Nobody's going to be stopping them. I think a lot of us said the same thing going into last year as well, but they look real. There's no question about it. But hey, before we go, we have to at least mention a few other teams. We're going to mention the Falcons. The Falcons just missed the cut on this list. They have all the resources in the world, no pun intended there, and a scary roster on paper, but we need to see them on land against some of the CDL competition before we crack them into the top 5. But here's my question, Andy. They spent enough money to actually make a decent roster this time?
Yeah, I think more of the question is that they spent enough money to be able to finally break past like top 8 at a LAN, right? Because that's the farthest they were able to get just in the BO6 season, but they're already making pretty big strides to try to rectify what was an abysmal start to their career, if you will, as an organization in the Call of Duty sphere. Talking about Riyadh Falcons, of course, they are a namesake at the end of the day, hosting EWC. We definitely love their presence, but The full Saudi roster last year. They made changes throughout the year, bringing in like RCDs, and then we saw Pred come into the mix. They finally ended up breaking past that top 12, beating the Vancouver Surge at that infamous event where Vancouver Surge did not get second. So I think that, yes, adding more world champions is going to inevitably help your odds on being able to not only win LAN events, but being able to at least place higher than what they normally look like in qualifiers or, I guess, LAN matches, not just events. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves here.
Yeah.
But, you know, adding in Celium, like I was talking about, buying him out if that is fully true, or Cell just wanted to go play with Pred and Exit alone, I think that that's going to be helping them out infamously. He is the highest statistical AR player that we have in Call of Duty for the past ever since the CDL has been created. And adding in Kismet as well, the Bulldog, I think that that's also going to help.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, Andy, is how does Kismet really fit into this roster around some pretty big names around him, even though I got Xnid up and coming, but...
I think bouncing off of Pred is going to be the biggest question for me, the way that Matt does like to play the game. He's very selfless as a player, so I think trying to play alongside for Pred, who normally likes to isolate himself on the map, is going to be a true challenge for Kismet in his play style. This is dating back to all the way back in like BO4 when he was playing on Enigma 6 with like Full Havoc, and Jordan General, for all you old heads out there. He's always constantly being that player, trying to elevate his teammates to be that much more impactful from the SMG role. So it's going to be really difficult, I think, for Kismet, but I do think that adding him alongside Salim adds a nice calm nature to this team to be able to rein them in to potentially make an impact.
What's their floor? What's their ceiling?
I don't know, probably top 6.
Floor and ceiling, they're top 6, no question about it.
Probably top 6.
Totally understand. But hey, that is going to be all the time we have here today. 11 new rosters, 1 preseason list. We have Optic on top, FaZe sliding to 3rd. I want to know what you think. Did we disrespect your favorite players in org? Is the new Gentlemate roster rated just a little too high? Drop your top 5 in the comments below. We'll be tracking these teams all season long. From Proper, I'm Thug Nasty. We'll see you on the map.